My done is better than your perfect.
Bobby Joseph is a seasoned designer and creative director who's worked in shaping some of the most influential looks, having worked with the likes of FUBU. He's now the founder of his self-named brand, Bobby Joseph, and creative director of YoB, a creative design agency.
I don't use the term culture loosely. It's not a static thing. It has to be constantly in motion. I was working on my deck, and I wrote lessons on there, and then I put a B in parentheses in front, and I was like, blessings. You trying to hit the perfect, you'll be here forever. You had to eventually, with this podcast, go, I got to get it done. You probably didn't like doing it on Zoom initially, but you had to do it. If it wasn't this perfect, you would have never did it.
To whom much is given, much is required. Part of that requirement is sharing. Culture is the heartbeat within our lives, and it's at the core of so many things. While we live in a time when we are starving for wisdom, I welcome you to your wisdom retreat at Culture Raises Us. Before I have him give us even more depth to his fascinating story, we always like to start with, when you hear culture, what does that mean to you?
Culture, I'll sum it up in three things. Fluidity, right? Like to have culture, it has to be constantly in motion, right? It's not a static thing. It needs to evolve, right? I think maybe those two are interconnected, and it needs to be rooted in something, right? Something larger than an individual.
Was there a particular moment when you realized just how influential, and I'll say, when I say fashion to you, because you work footwear and apparel,
right?
How influential those have been in shaping overall culture as we know it in general? Was there a particular moment or moments where you're like, this is when I realized this thing is real?
I could connect the dots.
Okay.
Right? So like, we had a meeting. I had another agency when I left FUBU.
Okay.
It was called Bregan Trust. Bregan means...
I remember that. Yeah.
Bregan means brain.
You had an office in Soho.
It was on Broadway and like 20th.
Yes.
So kind of close to Union Square. And Brain Trust. So me and Spencer Chan, we had an agency. And we had... Oh, yeah, you remember because you were at Reebok.
Yeah.
So we had Reebok as a client. We got it through Stout, right? And he said, come by. He was still kind of toggling Peter Arnell group, right? So he's like, come by, Arnell. Let's go over some stuff. So we go by there, and the conversation immediately like veers into, I'm doing a shoe with Jay. I was like, my knee jerk was, that's whack, right? And then he started talking about it's going to be a country club play. So I'm like, country club play? All right, tell me more. So he's like, yeah, we're thinking golf, and we're thinking tennis. And he's like, tennis. Tennis is the baseline for Bobby Joseph, right? I don't play, but there's
love. You have a love.
It's the aesthetic. It's dope boy chic.
Yeah.
Right? So he says tennis, ears perk up. Then we go over the stuff, blah, blah, blah. So he plants that seed, we leave it, we go over all the other business we had. He's like, you want to go down, we're leaving, you want to see the shoe? I was like, all right. So we go down, he has a driver outside, pops the trunk, he pulls out the 1984 reinterpretation. And I was like, damn, they killed it. This is perfect, right? Like, this is the dope boy shoe. Like, if there was a dope boy museum, like, this is a dope boy, right? So they did everything. They had it was perfect. So me and Spencer leave. We're walking back up to the N and the R. And the whole time I'm like, did you see that? And he's like, see what? It was a shoe. And I was like, no. So we get back to the office. I tear a paper bag in half. I start sketching. Sketching. He's like, I don't see what you see. We stayed there the whole night. Slept on the desk. He was like, oh, I get it. So then he does his thing and he puts his stank on it. But I say that to say part of it, as we were evolving, we were doing 2.0, right? They didn't ask us.
No.
I was just inspired. So we were doing 2.0. And in that, it kind of gave me the idea we should really lean into the packaging. And Spencer is like the most competitive designer I've ever met. So he's like
More than you?
like 97 times more.
Good gosh.
So he hears packaging and goes ham sandwich. So he creates this box that's a drawer box. And I say this, where I'm connecting the dots is the drawer box and the extra shoelaces and the toothbrush and the cleaner, that didn't exist.
Thank you.
This is 03.
Thank you.
It did not exist. So it was, when we did a box that was tied to specifically golf, and it came with a S. Carter golf glove. It came with additional golf balls that were branded. It was all that, right? So, and I called Steve. I was like, yo, I need a meeting. He was like, about what? I was like, man, just put me on the calendar. So we get on the calendar. I get like 2 days later, we get on the calendar, and we present. And he's like, you did this in 2 days? I said, we did this that night.
Mm.
And he was like, yeah, this is nuts. So it took a year for the shoe to get green-lighted. And, but like I said, like that, so that my first shoe did 240,000 pairs. I had never done a shoe before, right? And that he was like, yo, can you send me those boards? Right? This is anyway, he sent the boards. Obviously they copied them, right? Because this was before the deal was even done. Right?
No, this is so much context that I didn't even know this is how you got to designing this. So please keep.
Yeah. So he got the boards, and so here we are, 2025, 22 years later, and it's commonplace. It's commonplace to do what was the Jordan box that came with two?
Oh yeah, the 2-packs, the 2-packs or what have you.
But all that stuff didn't exist prior to then.
So you almost positioned yourself to design the S. Carter without them even asking you.
They didn't ask. I was inspired. I was just like,
and he was just coming to you as a design mind that he knows. Let me just let Bobby.
No. We were there to go over. Reebok was a client.
Okay.
And he teed us up because I had pitched him on this headwear program because Reebok had the NFL.
That's right.
So Jeff Tweedy was like, oh, you need to go holler at Steve. Steve is heading up. He's running a show at Reebok. So he gives me Steve's info. I meet him at his temporary apartment as his Tribeca place was being remodeled, right? Mm-hmm. And I gave him an NDA, he signed it like this. He's like, no, I don't care about that, whatever. And he was looking at the headwear presentation. He's like, this is nuts. Do you want to do any other work? And we had just left, right? We had no clients, nothing, right? We was like just out of pocket. The rent was like $4,000 a month.
Of course.
And I was like, yeah, let's do something. And we did like that in 10 months. We did like 700,000 in business with them,
which is so wild.
Back then.
Thank you for context. Yeah. Which is huge, but it's also a great segue because I think you are such a great representation of the culture of what I call betting on yourself.
Yes.
But I also look at you as you were like one of the meanest ghostwriters in this industry from an apparel and a footwear standpoint, and you teed it up on the S. Carter, which was the example that I was using or was going to reference. What was the moment that you decided, like, now it's time to bet on myself to the way that you are right now? We're going to get into the brand, because I think that's a significant thing that people need to know. Mm-hmm. And why? Because you were at all the prominent brands, and you were designing all the prominent looks and setting the tone for the cultural uniforms.
Right.
To then bet on yourself, somebody would be like, well, why? You're already doing it in all these different environments. What was that thing that you said, yo, it's time to bet on me?
It took a long time, man.
I know.
It took a long time. It was like,
And I feel like you're just now getting there to be completely 100.
Yeah. So I talk about these other two guys because they are really important in terms of my design journey. Emmett Harrell, Alyasha Moore, right? So we eventually all converged at Mecca, USA, right? We were like team 3, right? And what I learned working with them is, what we all learned is, we learned the skill of being the vendor.
Okay.
Being the hired gun, being the right. So in fine tuning that, you learn how to sell, you learn how to have ideas. Well, because the goal is the money, right? So the goal is like, I want this company to hire me to design this thing, right? So in that you don't want them to be thinking about should we. So you go into the meeting and be like, they give you the scope and you be like, oh no, and bop, 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 right? You just start shooting.
Yeah.
So that skill was fine tuned over years and years and years and years. How to like reel them in. That's the worst skill you could have with your own self, right? You're just too critical. You could be like, I want to make, for example, I had it in my sketchbook for over a decade, the perfect white shirt, right? Well, you have this skill of doing it for others. But when you have the like idea generation, refinement, and final execution, when you use those same things on yourself, man, you'll be stuck. You'd be like, it's never good enough. It's never good enough for yourself, right? You're like, I don't want to be whack. I don't want to be that. So it took me a long time to get to that point. It took me a long time. And so the betting on myself was like, I had to listen to my own advice. You had one of the quotes, my done is better than your perfect.
Break that down. I love that.
My done is better than your perfect. Like, so you trying to hit the perfect, you'll be here forever. You'll be here forever, right? So like, you had to eventually with this podcast go, I got to get it done. Like, like you probably didn't like doing it on Zoom initially, but you had to do it. You knew it was calling you. When we met at SOHA, it was calling you, like yelling at you, right? So you was like, I have to do it. Now, if you would have applied your hired assassin lens to it, you would have never did that. You would have never did it like that, right? Like if it wasn't this perfect that you had to evolve to, you would have never did it. So eventually I had been telling my younger siblings for years, my done is better than your perfect. My done is better than your perfect. And then I'm waffling for years on Bobby Joseph. And then I just had to
Yo, and it's wild, man. I've known you personally for years. Decades. And I've watched, and I've told you this in person, the evolution of you as a man, and especially when you became a father. I saw a distinct change because, anybody who knows you be like, oh no, Bobby was one of the most arrogant people ever. And when you were even telling that story about the pop, 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 I could see you in those meetings and people looking at you like, who is this arrogant ass designer who think he knows everything? But it really was your passion of create. It is. Thank you. Of creating something special. And now I'm so glad to be able to see it come through the reflection of your brand, right? And not necessarily coming through in other people's interpretation or other brands.
Right.
You're now doing it on your terms in your brand. But that, my done is better than your perfect. If you don't put that on a t-shirt, I mean, like, that just hit me.
Yeah. It hit me when I heard it. I didn't make it up. I read it somewhere and I was like, ouch.
Right. And you've run with it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll get you up off the seat.
So, I mean, now I look at that as a significant reason or why behind the Bobby Joseph brand. Right. So talk about that and talk about what's the point of differentiation between Bobby Joseph, the brand, and everything else that we see in this market. Because as you and I both know, this is oversaturation is like an understatement.
Right.
I mean, an understatement. Why is it now that this is needed?
So I have the verticals of the brand: music, literature, my son, right? Sport culture. And I don't use culture, the term, loosely. I really mean sport culture, right?
Meaning?
There are specific things in sport that are specific to the sport, specific to the overall idea of athletics. So those are some of the verticals, and I have the horizontals, right? So some of the horizontals are genius. So where in the music vertical, for example, I started off the year with Dilla, and the second one was Sade. And if you hear those two, or are you familiar, you know they're geniuses. Like hands down, right? So there's the music, boom. Then over here, where we talk about like sport culture and just the overall brand, is my brand ethos is Dope Boy Chic, right? So, and Dope Boy Chic, and I'm not glorifying like, drug dealing, but that look did not exist before.
That's right.
And the look is born out of tennis. The look is born out of Fila, LS, Sergio Tacchini, Adidas, right? And it's very specific. These very color blocked, elevated fabrics, sweatsuits. I mean, it was shorts and polos and things like that too, but the sweatsuit is a thing that's endured, right? It's look at me, it's expensive, so it creates distance. So the brand ethos is Dope Boy Chic. So whereas a lot of people like not a lot of people, I don't want to diminish any other brand, right? Everybody's trying. I was looking at some of the questions, so to jump ahead, like one of the things that you have to be is you got to be whack. You got to be whack at some point. Like you just not going to jump out the box and be perfect, right? So like I've made some products that didn't sell, I didn't love. I wish I would have did this thing differently, but I had to get it out of my head. So the differentiation point is like I got the trademark for my name in, I think 2012.
Wow.
2012,
Okay.
something like that. And so here we are 13 years later. There's a bunch of years in there that I made some whack stuff. There's a bunch of years where I didn't make anything. Right? So so here we are now. I have my feet under me. Like I know I want to do music, right? Genius. I know I want to do sport culture. I know I want to do literature. I know I want to do stuff that relates to my son, right? But it took me a long time to get there. You know what I mean? Like I had to make a T-shirt with a World War I illustration of a fighter plane and be like, that ain't me. You know what I mean?
You know, it's a testament to, I think, a journey, right? Everybody, I think our society is so programmed to just look at the end result. Right. And you are giving a perfect example of it took a journey. It took chapters.
Yes.
It took different, learnings, adversity, wins,
losses,
blessings,
L's as lessons or blessings. Blessings.
Okay.
Yeah, I was writing. I just saw this the other day. I think I was doing, not the other day, but I was working on my deck.
Yeah.
And I wrote lessons on there, and then I put a B in parentheses in front, and I was like,
that's another one.
Something there.
There's something.
it's something
That's
there.
another one. Yes.
Yeah.
Because nothing is a loss. It's
No,
a lesson.
exactly.
But the blessings.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I need a merchandise. Sure. No, I mean, but I'm so glad you're sharing that because again, we're in a society where you don't get privy to the journey, and you don't get privy to the reality of time.
Right.
Things take time. We're so microwave. Like they want to put something in for 90 seconds and it's supposed to pop immediately. Where we come from an era of the oven bake.
Right.
Like let that thing marinate 6 good hours.
It ain't never going back to that though.
Okay.
It ain't never going back to that. So like, you don't want to hang on to that too tight.
Okay.
Tightly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But there has to be an evolution of what that represents. How do we give things time to become what they can be, like yourself?
I think my target demo is not super young people.
Mm-hmm.
So because my target demo is more of my age,
Mm-hmm.
they want it right now. That's why I was telling you earlier. I was like, I can't really do I can't plant seeds for too long on social.
Right.
Right? Because like no matter what the demo is, they like, stop. I need
Right.
let me
Stop
buy it or
teasing me
not.
right now. Right now.
Right?
Right now.
That's what the phone did. It's like it's binary. It's yes or no. It's not, you're not gonna keep just stringing me along. So so I understand let me remove the like. I understand both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Particularly because, I wear all the hats in the so I really get it. I do the research, I do the design, and I ship the goods. So and everything in between. So I get all the data. I get the why my hat manufacturer is mad at me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I get why the consumer is elated when they get the origami folded tissue paper.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you're also nimble enough, I don't want to say small enough, to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Facts.
And I think that's another learning of being in the big machine and now just betting on yourself and doing it this way because you can truly take all those learnings and apply them as you see fit.
Right.
Not somebody else's interpretation and ego of how they want to push it through. Right. Now it's all you, which I think, again, is the beauty of seeing you in this space and growing. And I listen to, I know how much sport plays a role in your life, right? Like we've played ball for years. I miss them moments too. With one another. And I know what that competitive juice and just the waking up Saturday mornings and knowing we got to get there early to get on the list to be on the right team. Are there other influences or people that have influenced you greatly in your creative vision?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny. It's just interesting. I just recorded this for myself. Like a friend of mine was a producer. We were just in the backyard, just chopping it up. She asked a similar question, and I was like, so I have it teed up and ready for you.
Please.
It's my parents. It's Guy Wood and Troy Johnson from 5001.
5001 Flag, yeah.
And it's Eminem and Alyasha.
Context on each.
So both of my parents are informally trained. But like because it's been so long, now they're masters. Mm-hmm. So my mother has been sewing since she was a child. And they come from, they were teenagers in the 60s in the Northeast. So you had to dress or you just wouldn't have access. You couldn't get the job. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have the social latitude. You had to dress. You know what I mean? So clothes were important to them. But in that, because their parents were, craftspeople or something, like they got the seed from their parents and then they took it wherever. So like my mother's probably, she's top 5 designer I've ever met, ever. And doesn't want to be famous. Doesn't want to be nothing, right? And my father also has, he doesn't know I don't know if he knows he has technical skills, but he like supremely, like he has 1,000 species of plants in his backyard. He's a beekeeper. He paints, like growing up, we was always remodeling something, built a barn for us, you know what I mean? Like just, so so like they have that thing. And then like, so then jumping to Guy and Troy, I get to New York. I have never met anybody like that in my life. Like they made all the clothes for every video.
They were amazing.
Every tour, every video, everything, right? So they had two Harlem dudes, they had to sell it to the labels until they got, now they Bad Bunny, right? But before that, when they was doing Big E or Lil Kim or Mary J. Blige or whatever, like they had to get the labels to believe like, oh, they know what they're doing. And so like, I had never seen that coming from California, like the cars, the jewelry, the shoes, the clothes, the glasses, like every day, all the time. And then Emmett and Don Juan, like Emmett, Virginia Beach, grew up with Pharrell, Alyasha, Brooklyn, grew up with Mos Def, like they just. I was telling in the clip, I was saying, Alyasha did a T-shirt that I'll never forget. It was like, this might have been like late 90s, and it was a step-by-step line art figure drawing of somebody doing Tai Chi. So figure one was this, and I was like, coming from where I come from, that would never be a reference. Right. I would never, you know what I mean? Like that's a. Like that's in your level of interest, you know what I mean? Or like when I met Emmett, he had a brand that he was doing sublimated soccer goalie jerseys in the 90s as a brand play, not like he worked for Umbro or he was doing it. No, he was like, nah, this is the vibe. And so those three groupings of like creatives really shaped who I am.
I love that. And I love how it started with your parents and the influence that they had and have had on you. And, I kind of transitioned to look at, the times that we're in today. Like we're in some, to say the least.
Right. You don't have to say it.
And given the state of things, I mean, we need more parents like that. What are you doing specifically to ensure that the cultures and the spaces you frequent and are kind of being nurtured and poured into properly? And kind of what would you recommend creatives do to ensure that these cultures remain, and I don't want to say intact, but just cared for the way that they need to?
Simple answer. You got to participate.
Okay.
You got to get in there. You can't do it from the sidelines. You can't be like, what you should do is take that box over there. No, you got to actually go show to whomever, lift the box like this, use your knees, carry it down there, put it on the dolly, call for the elevator, take it down, stack it this way, make sure the label's facing out. Like, I'm using that as a weird analogy, but like, you got to get in it. You can't do it from the sidelines. You can't do it on the phone every now and then. You be like, yo, come through. We're doing X, Y, and Z. I want you to meet this person. I want you to have this experience. I want you to be whack. You got to grow from something. Here, I got another one for you. Another saying that I heard. Say yes to everything.
Say yes to everything.
Say yes to everything. You could figure it out later. What you have to calibrate. Like you said, yes, I'm going to speak on this podcast, and then you get there and you be like, something ain't right. You know what I mean? Like, and you calibrate from there. Or conversely, you could go and be like, yo, this exceeds my expectations. Right? But you have to say, so So I heard this maybe 2 years ago, and I've been trying to implement that. Say yes to everything. Say yes to everything. Go get your hands dirty. Participate. You know, answer the phone. Hey, this person wants to get your advice. Give some free game. Give some free game.
It sounds almost like it's also similar to your "my done is better than your perfect."
Yeah.
Because like you're doing.
You have to do.
You got to do it and just be an example of it in the spaces that mean a lot to you, as opposed to just sitting on the sideline and watching and complaining.
My son was playing basketball, right? So he's playing at the Y. We go there one day. There's no practice. So I said, we're already here. I'll work you out.
That's right, drills.
So we're doing drills, and I'm glad I set up the camera to capture this. During the drills, he and I'm like on him, right? Like he'd been kind of playing, but he didn't have any kind of formal instruction. And I'm not saying I'm trained to do this, but I'm more trained than the 8-year-old at the time. 8-year-old at the time. So we're going through a drill. He doesn't quite get it right, and then he just hugs me and says, Will you be the parent coach for my team? I was like,
right.
Yes, son. Yes, I will.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to my dad one day, and I'm, a couple seasons in, because they have a lot of seasons in a year, because it's like 8 games, so they play 8 or 10 games, and then they restart. So I'm talking to my father, and I'm telling him about I have all these like what's the imposter syndrome, and he was like, get over it. He was like, all those other parents won't do it. They're on the sidelines.
That's right.
Right? So they can't say shit. And I'm in it making the mistakes, being whack. I never coached. I mean, I've had I've managed.
And you've played.
I've played,
right.
I've created teams and stuff like that, but I've never coached, right? So it was like, all right, so seeing where they are in terms of skill level, try to elevate it from here. What I learned, and I'm using this as an analogous to even designers or whatever. So like, a lot of them kids have never been complimented. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, great shot! You did a left-hand layup. And then they're all like, I did?
How about that?
You know what I mean? Like, and you can see it in their face, like, nobody's ever been this excited for me. So, you got to get in it.
Good for you. And something else that you said that is really, I think, necessary to hear. It's okay to make, I don't want to call them mistakes, but to be whack.
Yeah, you got to be whack.
Like, you have to have those moments. I think that's the other thing where people, they look at other people's journeys or other people's stories and they think, oh, there was never anything whack.
Right.
There was never any downfall or road bump. No, it was a lot.
Right.
There was a ton. Just it hasn't been exploited. It hasn't been spoken about or highlighted. But I think we probably need to do that more.
I didn't even know that until I left FUBU. Because, like, when I got there, I was like, I need to make, on this next job, I'm going to make some royalties, right? And I didn't know how. I just knew them in the back of my mind. I was like, I'm going to create something that I'm going to participate in, right? And so I got there, and I wrote that into the contract. I was like, I have this idea, didn't have it. It wasn't fleshed out yet, but so they was like, yeah, whatever. They was shipping 20 million a month. So they was like, yeah, whatever.
20 million a month.
They was like, whatever, sure, right? And so then I'm there. I get there in July. I'm walking down the street in Soho in, say, August, and I get the idea. Boom, that's it. All right, cool. Now I have this tucked away for me to develop. And the thing, Platinum FUBU, that I created didn't come out until I got there in July of '98. it didn't come out till April 2000.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
So this is like a year and a half of me doing inline product for them. I was VP of design and merchandising, but like I was doing their thing.
Right.
Right. And so when I left, I got to look back and go, damn, they let me be whack for a year and a half. Right. And they let me be whack because they was doing $20 million a month. I was like, whatever. Mm-hmm. We just need somebody like to head the ship. You know, but like the stuff that I I did NBA and I had some hits, but overarchingly, like I could look back at that product and I'm like, that was not compelling. Right? That was not, it was off brand for them. It was more my ego. So not that it was like done by a child, it just was not on brand. And so I could look back at that product for that first year and a half and go like, damn, they let me, and they paid me a lot of money. Right? And then it's like, they paid me a lot of money to be whack for a year and a half. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was a blessing.
You know, you've shared a lot of, I think, great insight that so many people can learn from, but also get more insight into you and kind of your journey. I would love to hear if there were like 3 seeds.
3 seeds, huh?
That you would leave for the stewards of culture moving forward. What would those 3 things be?
Success is a collective, right? I am successful in any of these stops because there were people to help me, right? And vice versa, right? I probably get more out of the assist than making a shot.
I called you the consummate ghostwriter, but go ahead.
So the success is a collective. Elevate others, right? Like it's great to see somebody get the shine. Magic Johnson said it best. He's like, I like the assist. He was like, when you score the basket, one person's happy. When you assist, 2 people are happy. I was like, I like that.
I love that.
I like that. And the last one is to share the info. You can't die with this information, man. There's no upside to leaving and having it all stored. It's like dying with money. Like, what would you do that for?
Man, listen, I personally am so grateful that we had this conversation because, like I said, and you corrected me, known you for decades.
Yeah.
And I've been able to watch your professional and personal growth over that span of time. And it's the beauty of you delivering those 3 seeds when I don't know if you would have delivered those 30 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Right.
And so I'm grateful to be able to see this and hear this because I know how much you can serve to others, and you have. And I want you to know, great job of making that left-handed layup, bro.
Thank you.
You should be applauded as well for your growth. It's seen. As a human, it's seen. And I'm elated to see that growth. And I'm so thankful for anybody who comes in contact with you to be able to receive it because you've got so much to offer.
Thank you.
And for that, I thank you, bro.
Likewise.
We truly appreciate your support because it helps us fulfill our mission of promoting cultural awareness and personal development. Please click the subscribe button below to help ensure and solidify our mission.